Mom, your father was determined not to be drafted into the German army. Soon after the war began, when they were doing physicals on all Dutchmen to see who could be forced to take up arms, your father came up with an ingenious method of making sure that he, a very healthy man, would be disqualified due to poor health. Tell me about that.
Well, it wasn't really so much my dad's idea as the man had obviously discussed it, his friends and his colleagues. It turned out that there were people, healthy people, who were actually able to evade the draft. So my dad was all for it. I mean, he had a family with three girls in those days. A wife and three girls, they needed to be fed and protected. My dad was always one for protecting us. So this scheme whereby some men escaped the draft was keep the person awake. Keep the man awake for 3 days and 3 nights before having to go gekeurd. I do not know the English word for that.
For physical.
Right, thank you, before getting the physical. So it was decided that my dad would stay awake for 3 days and 3 nights. Well, he couldn't do that on his own, obviously. My cousin Joop went in on it. He said he would help my dad. Several of his colleagues said they would keep him awake at work because, of course, he had to go to work. Friends and neighbors, they would all come over and keep my dad awake after work. We all knew that would not be a difficult task because people have to sleep. They were also all afraid that my mom would give in and let my dad sleep because she loved him. It is no fun to see her husband like that, begging for sleep even 5 minutes or 10 minutes. So there was one person assigned to my mom to keep her away from my dad, and the other man just kept walking. I can still see them walking, my dad, up and down the room, up and down the room. And sometimes towards the end, my dad would simply fall through his knees. It was pretty darn awful. Just before he was to be tested, they let him sleep for 10 minutes or maybe half an hour, I'm not quite sure. So he would be able to walk into the room where the doctors are. Anyways, they kept him awake. And my dad kept walking, asking to sleep. He didn't do it. He was tested, and he was not suitable to go into the army. So that was really a big celebration. I think he slept 2 days after that. I'm not quite sure anymore. But I do know that, needless to say, the Germans picked up on that. And my dad was one of the last people to fall through the cracks who was able to put this on and to be excused from the German army.